Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Natasha, and I'm a social worker in the Community Learning Disability team. My presentation today is on the strength-based approach, which is known as Better Living here in Havering. Okay, so just to introduce what the strength-based approach is. The strength-based approach is actually an approach that actually seeks to explore what a person's strength is. So it actually links in quite well with my colleague Awila's presentation of person-centered planning. So this approach is an approach that attempts to move away from the traditional way of how social care completes assessments, but it rather looks at how we explore a person's strengths and their resources that are round about them. It's also about looking for solutions that are able to help a person engage within their community and for them to live a more independent life and also build resilience. So further exploring strength-based. So what is strength-based? Again, it's about exploring what a person has in and around them to be able to live an independent life as much as possible. It's also about how we exchange information with the people that we're working with, how we exchange information with the adults that we're working with, their families, their carers, for the best outcome for them. It's about supporting people to live a life that they consider as a better life. So the more traditional way of assessment would look at what the needs are rather than look at what the person's strengths are. So this is about changing the way that social care asks their questions. So within our assessments, we're looking more at asking questions like, what are you good at, rather than asking questions like, what are you struggling with? Questions like, what are you good at, help us look at, the strengths that a person has. And sometimes by talking and exchanging that information, it helps us explore and identify those strengths rather than identify the areas that somebody's struggling with. We are also looking at focusing on the strengths and supporting those strengths and then further developing them so that the person still maintains that independence and also to empower them. So within the strength-based, we're looking at the person's skills, we're looking at the knowledge that they have, and we're also looking at the networks that are around about them. Using the strength-based approach, social care will be working in partnership with the adults and their family and carers to connect them within the community. So it's about exploring together with the adults, their family and their carers, about what the person is able to do, rather than look at what the person is not able to do. We're looking at the things that are around about them within their environment. For example, their friends, we're looking at their family, we're looking at voluntary organizations. And a lot of what's going on at the moment as well is using assistive technology and equipment to help people live more independently. Part of our assessment as well would be to signpost people rather than for us to assess and then just provide a service. But sometimes there's some organizations that are within the community that are able to support people. So within our assessments, the aim is to try and look at organizations within the community that can help support people remain independent rather than to put in a service as the traditional service would have normally done. So some examples of promoting a strength-based approach, like I mentioned before, one of the big things is assistive technology. Assistive technology is helping quite a lot of people with learning disabilities. So we have different therapies in place that can help for somebody to continue to remain independent. So an example for trying to meet somebody's nutritional needs, we can explore things like easy grip cups, or patterned cups or colored cups. The technology that can be used with that is voice control technology. Alexa is one of the technologies that is actually being used at the moment. So Alexa can be used for reminders to eat, accessing recipes, and calling someone. An adult that I worked with was using Alexa to remind them for the next step that they needed to do when they were cooking. So for example, they were making pasta, they needed to know what to do first and the next step. So boiling the water, add the salt, add the pasta, and Alexa was able to remind them of those steps. So that meant that person remained independent. And rather than the traditional service where we would get somebody to come in for 30 minutes to support them to prepare their meals, Alexa was able to help them go through the recipes and for them to prepare their meals independently. Other technologies that have been seen to help is what we call a pen pal, and this helps in recorded stickers for people that have communication difficulties. So if you look on the screen, that is a pen pal sheet, and what happens is on that sheet there's maybe a picture of what they want for breakfast, a picture of whether they want to wear a particular type of shoes today or a particular type of shirt. And what happens is there's a voice recording behind each picture, and the person would just use that and they would press that button, and that would let the person that's supporting them know what they would like to wear or what they would like to have for breakfast. Another example that we have is a kettle tipper, which has a motion detector, and that's able to prevent any burns for people that may have probably weaknesses in their hands. So those are some of the strength-based approaches that would be exploring within our assessments. Within our assessments as well, part of being strength-based is being able to identify when there's a crisis in place. It's about helping people to get through times of crisis. For example, in this time of the COVID-19 situation, part of it is what we're actually doing at the moment, which is the welfare calls, making sure that we are calling our adults and their carers and families to find out how they're getting on during this crisis. And it's about listening to people, and being able to support them to regain that control over their life. For example, somebody that I spoke to recently has stopped going to the day center, and because of that, they were used to going to the day center. So we were able to now provide somebody who would come in for a few hours to support them out into the community to take a walk and do some exercises whilst they go through this crisis period. So those are the kind of things that we're also able to support through in providing a strength-based approach. Strength-based approach is also about personalization, which is what my colleague Awele spoke about as well. So in that, we would also look at exploring the long-term needs for someone. We'd look at what those needs are and how can we make sure that the needs don't develop further. And by providing a support that is long-term, would be able to make sure that the person's well-being is also supported, and ensuring that that support is also person-centered. Just to end my presentation, I've put some legislation that supports our strength-based model. So part of it is the CARE Act, which was explored by my colleague Noreen. the Mental Capacity Act, which promotes choice, and it enables people to also make those decisions that we or other people may see as unwise decisions, but it's there for us to ensure that we respect people's decisions. The Human Rights Act, to respect the right to private and family life. The Equality Act, we also ensure that, you know, one size of a service does not fit everyone, and that again includes being person-centered in our approach. The Data Protection Act, we also ensure that your information is personalized and it is kept safe and not shared with people that it's not supposed to be shared with. And all this is also in line with our Havering values of respect, integrity, creativity, everyone, and ambition. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.